NFL team previews. We got the New Orleans Saints. One of the reasons I do these team previews is because it forces me to evaluate each team. Making these 6, 7 minute long videos of the talking points is just like a byproduct of that research. In early July, when I first started working on the team previews, nothing really jumped out at me with the Saints. They're a team I think if I skipped doing a team preview on, many probably wouldn't even notice. Fast forward to now, present day, I think I actually found something good with the Saints. Saints now in the post-Drew Brees era have failed to make the playoffs in 4 straight years. This season, very likely will make it 5 straight, but that doesn't mean we can't find ways to make money on them. Saints currently have the lowest regular season win total out of any team in the league, and it wasn't always like that. It opened at 6.5 and has been steamed down significantly to 5.5, which there's other teams with win totals of 5.5. The Browns, both New York teams, and the Titans, but none of them have the under juice so heavily. Saints under 5.5 at minus 200 on some books. That's basically like implied odds of a 4-win team. Last season, they launched out the gate, scoring a combined 91 points in 2 wins, demolishing both Carolina and Dallas. Everyone was adjusting the Saints up in their ratings. New offensive coordinator Clint Kubiak was looking like a wizard. Then the Saints lost 7 in a row, and head coach Dennis Allen was fired. Saints went from looking like the best team in the league at one point to easily having the worst roster top to bottom in the league. Now, this season, in comes former Cowboys, Chargers, and Eagles offensive coordinator Kellen Moore. Success at offensive coordinator doesn't always translate to success at head coach, but for now, Kellen Moore has to be considered an upgrade from Allen. No coach made more incorrect in-game decisions of when to punt and kick field goals than Dennis Allen did. With Derek Carr announcing his retirement, Kellen Moore is going to have the task of trying to find a competent QB from a slim selection of incumbent backup Spencer Rattler and then rookie Tyler Shook, who is technically a rookie, but I think he turns like 27 years old this year, maybe. He was one of those guys that seemed like he was in college for a decade. Reports are that Shook and Rattler are in a very close battle for QB1. As of this recording, Kellen Moore has yet to name a Week 1 starter. If I had to guess, they're going to go with Shook, though. They already know what they have with Rattler, seeing him in the role of a starter, so I think they see what they got with Shook. And then whoever the starter is, they don't have the excuse of lack of weapons. Solid wide receiver core, Olave, Rashid Shaheed, and they acquired Brandon Cooks, and they still have Alvin at running back. But the Saints will benefit a lot from their schedule, which I have as the second overall easiest strength of schedule. They only play a single team that ranks inside the top 10, which is Buffalo Week 4. As with every indoor dome team, I like to look at the potential for outdoor extreme weather games. Even the cold weather teams on their schedule, like Buffalo and Chicago, they're going to play them before the cold winter months. Only potential for like a cold weather outdoor game is Week 17 versus Tennessee, and really the only thing that could be considered a negative as it relates to the layout of the Saints schedule is the 4 different sets of back-to-back road games during the season. But back-to-back road games aren't just automatically a negative. Other factors like rest and then length of travel between games matter, because in the last 20 years in the NFL, playing the second game of a road back-to-back is actually a profitable spot, just blindly. You wouldn't think so, but 53% against the spread, and that's 53% on a huge sample size, but it drops down below 50% if those same teams are on like a short week of 6 days or fewer rest. Every Saints game this season is going to be played on a Sunday, so they won't ever have to break routine or worry about a rest disadvantage spot. And actually, speaking of rest advantage or rest disadvantage, I saw someone talk about the Saints' rest disadvantage, and I touched on this in the Raiders team preview, but rest obviously matters, but context of the situation matters more. The Saints have the second worst net rest disadvantage, but it's only because they face 3 teams who are coming off their bye weeks: the Rams, Dolphins, and Panthers. The Saints have a full week of rest in those 3 games, but their opponents technically have 6 days of net rest advantage on them. So right there for the Saints is negative 18 games. Now, I'm not saying rest doesn't matter, but it's situational. A team playing on a short week, which is less than 7 days to prepare, playing a team on full rest is much more of a disadvantage than a team playing on full rest, but the opponent has 3 extra days or a week. My point is, don't just look at these net rest advantage, disadvantage rankings. Saints don't play a single game on a short week. And outside of those 3 games versus the Rams, Fins, and Panthers, who are all coming in off byes, Saints are either neutral rest or have 1 day rest advantage, true rest advantage. Now, if you've been following me for these team previews, you've heard me talk a lot about a team's luck profile. These are things outside of a team's control or their like actual ability. There's a lot of randomness in games. Therefore, over the course of the season, there is as well. Not many teams had a worse luck profile than the 2024 Saints did. Injuries are one of these luck metrics. An injury to like an offensive tackle can have a huge impact on a team. It can make the left guard on his side next to him appear worse, can make the QB and running back he's blocking for look worse, but how do we measure injuries? Rather than just counting the amount of total players injured on a team, there's a metric called AGL, stands for Adjusted Games Lost. This calculates the importance of the injury, weighing the difference between not just the position, but significance. A starting right guard who is injured means more than a backup tight end who's injured. AGL can be applied to a team's offense and defense, or even just specific positional groups. Like, I didn't have no clue the Saints have the worst or second worst AGL due to injury for the quarterback position, offensive line, and wide receiver. Rookie quarterback Spencer Rattler and career-long backup man Jake Haener, they combined to start 7 games. They won 0-7 as starters. Their numbers were horrible, though. Negative 0.27 EPA per dropback and just a 36% success rate. Saints didn't score more than 19 points in a single game after Week 11. The Saints were a completely different team after Week 10 from these injuries. 7 of the offensive starters and 6 of the defensive starters from Week 1 were not available to play in the final game of the season due to injury. So that shows you there how much of a difference the team was from the start to the end. Offensive line dealt with constant injuries even before the season started. Their elite right tackle, Ryan Ramczyk, suffered a knee injury in preseason and unexpectedly retired, leaving a void there at right tackle. All season long, they had different guys filling positions across the O-line. 4 different players got over 100 snaps each at left guard, over 200 snaps at center. Naturally, the Saints addressed the O-line in the draft. First-round pick left tackle Kelvin Banks from Texas. He'll have an immediate impact because it allows Trevor Penning to move back to his natural position of guard. He was playing out of position at left tackle all last season, and it was a mess. Penning allowed 54 pressures, most of any left tackle. He was also the most penalized in yards called on him, more than any other offensive lineman in the league last year. And it wasn't just the offense that dealt with issues, too. The Saints only played with they played Week 1 with their starters on defense, and that was they played another game with their original starters. That was it. But they kind of hung tough. I mean, they returned this year pretty much the same unit besides Honey Badger, who retired. Justin Reed's going to try to replace him. New defensive coordinator Brandon Staley's hoping to kind of like duplicate the success he had with the Rams a few years ago. That'll probably depend on how quickly the defense gets acclimated to like this new 3-4 scheme change. Undergoing like a scheme change can take a while for like younger units, but Saints have a bunch of guys on the other side of 30 years old, including my favorite linebacker, or one of them I should say in the league, 36-year-old Demario Davis. We're almost the same age. It's crazy. I got a couple years on him though. Chase Young, he's a solid pickup last year. He was kind of productive. Saints went 2-6 in one-score games and lost several games where they had an 80% win probability going into the fourth quarter, which is what blended fourth quarter win percentage over expectation calculates. This removes the final 6 minutes of a game. With that, Saints played closer to a 6-win team. They lost to Carolina by 1 point after having 75% win probability in the fourth quarter. They also lost their season finale to Tampa Bay. Saints were 14-point underdogs but led the entire game until the fourth quarter. They had several fourth quarters where they got outscored by double digits. And something strange about this Saints team you don't ever see, they were plus 26 in first half point differential, but negative 86 in second half. Injuries and awful fourth quarter gameplay summed up the Saints 2024 season for sure. Saints have solid, proven offensive weapons. I think the obvious weakness at quarterback could be disguised a little due to their schedule. They're going to play the overall weakest defensive schedule based on the final EPA ratings from last year. Outside of the Bills, they have winnable games all up and down their schedule. And let's say the Saints have one win going into the Week 10 game versus Carolina. I think it's extremely possible for them to win 4 out of these 8 games to finish the season. The Bucs are the only opponent they'll schedule to play who are currently favored to make the playoffs. And, I get the QB position looks bleak, but as bad as Rattler looked last season, Saints were extremely close to beating both Washington and Tampa Bay late in the season. So let's say Tyler Shough is just a little bit better than Rattler was last season. Let's say he's 25th ranked quarterback instead of 30th. I think that'd be enough for them to get to 6 wins, or at least 5 wins. DraftKings has 4.5 over minus 140 right now. I bet that this morning, but that was after I bet over 5.5 at plus 170, which I really like. So I have both those bets. I don't think the Saints deserve to have the league's lowest win total. Each year, the league's bottom 5 teams average 4 wins. They just need to be a little bit better than that. For all my future bets currently pending, or all the bets I will make this season, you can access them all in real time inside the Betting Network Discord community. The invite link to join is in all my social media bios, so no matter where you're watching this, the bio, the description of the video, they're there. Looks like the Jets or Giants are up next. I'll probably flip a coin for which one I do.